cities that show up just because it's a fairly rural part of our area, potential for severe hail, that's going to be an inch or larger, and the potential for some damaging winds and rotation with this storm. That, again, I put a track on it. Unfortunately, no cities come up, but if you're familiar with this area north of Bedford, just be aware that this does include you. The tornado warning until 7:30 for northeastern Lawrence and northwestern Jackson counties, and we continue to monitor a fairly intense storm. We'll go to the velocities while we're on this kind of close-up view, and what we look for is a little red and green close together. Fairly broad area at this point, not very what we would call a tight circulation, but definitely still some that is basically just along and north of Highway 50. And as this tracks northeast, again, if it would hold together, may impact Columbus, Elizabethtown, Jonesville, just north of Seymour down the line, as it appears it's going to stay just north of you, Brownstown. Although, don't let your guard down, Brownstown. We definitely have some strong to severe storms moving your way. We'll put the traditional view of the radar back on, and kind of a large view. Again, that's our only warning aside from the surrounding area under a severe thunderstorm warning as well. But for the areas to the north, not reaching severe limits, but we are monitoring the threat for those severe storms, at least the potential for some damaging winds. I'm going to go north to south along this line. Again, non-severe here, but some heavy rain, gusty winds approaching 421 between Delphi and Frankfort, and south into Crawfordsville, just west of Lebanon. So this will move your way, Lebanon, in the next half hour or so. And then as we track south, coming out of Greencastle, Brownsburg, Avon, Plainfield, you will be in the path along with Zionsville. Non-severe here, but some heavy rain moving east of Spencer. It's over Ellettsville, Bloomington, Clear Creek, and Martinsville. And then as we move to the south, this is the area that we're monitoring for that severe potential. The severe thunderstorm warning does include Jackson, southern Brown, southeastern Monroe, and eastern Lawrence until 7:30. And then just for this kind of cluster here that we're monitoring, well, actually, we'll go a little closer just so you can see it. This kind of intensity on radar that you see just to the north of Highway 50, that's the area for the potential for some larger hail, and that's also where we have the tornado warning in effect until 7:30. Sean?
Yeah. So far, at least, we haven't had any reports of damage. Bedford, you are out of the severe weather threat, okay? It's to the east of you, to the east of Olytic. Lake Monroe, I got a report from a friend down there. This was a little bit after 7, said the lake's actually relatively calm, though they are in the severe thunderstorm warning. The brunt of this particular storm looks like it's going to bypass Lake Monroe, and looks like it's going to stay north of Brownstown. You see that, let me circle this, the area of greatest concern. This is where we could have some 1-inch sized hail. And that's where, let me show you the wind field here as well. A stronger wind, going to be a little bit farther south of that wind core. So not necessarily rotating as it heads into Brownstown, but potential within that zone right there. And I'll circle it right in here, potential for over 60-mile-per-hour wind. And that's within that severe thunderstorm warning. It's very possible this could be expanded farther east. And so that would put Jonesville and Seymour in play. I'm going to put on our shear detector. And this basically shows us a couple of things where it just kind of cleans the radar out and allows you to highlight certain zones where wind damage is possible and or rotation. All right, so you can see, as I mentioned, east now of Bedford, close call on Brownstown, and going to be heading toward 65 and possibly Columbus. So down the road, we want you to be aware of that in Columbus as well as Greensburg. I want a little bit of a bigger radar perspective here so you can see where the thunder is. Up closer to Indianapolis, the air is stable enough that we may just miss out on some of this rotation. It will be a close call. But right now it looks like if we get additional warnings with this particular storm, it's probably going to be in this zone right in here. All right, and we're talking between now and roughly 9:30 is where we could get some additional rotation and additional tornado warnings. So if you're watching this and you're in that, we still technically have 15 more minutes on the tornado warning. We're going to zoom in as much as we can here. So north of 50, north of Highway 50 there, and just southeast of Lake Monroe. Lake Monroe getting some rumbles of thunder within that severe thunderstorm warning as well for another 15 minutes. And then we'll start to shave off. Let me just draw a line here. So if you're behind this line, the threat for now is over. So that includes Mitchell, includes Bedford, Bloomington getting downpours right now. No doubt the clouds are probably looking fairly ominous as well. And but we're starting to get some. Let's go in and clean up the radar a little bit, and we're starting to see within that tornado warning. It looks like to me, Angela, we're starting to get a new circulation develop here. So right in this zone, close to Lake Monroe, right in here, we're starting to get a little bit of a tightening of the circulation. So we probably are going to get a new tornado warning or some type of new warnings coming out here, I would assume, rather quickly for this particular part of the storm.
Yes, and they'll be for most likely the rest of Brown County, the rest of Jackson, and most likely Bartholomew. So if you are in the, like if you could draw a square or a rectangle or whatever you want to call it, from Nashville to Brownstown to Seymour to Columbus, that's kind of the area that we're keeping an eye on. Although Brownstown, Seymour, it appears it's going to stay just north of you. Not the storms, not all of them, but the strongest part of this line that has prompted the severe thunderstorm warning and the tornado warning. But we'll caution you, Brownstown, you're kind of on the cusp, on the edge of that initial severe thunderstorm warning that they did upgrade to a tornado warning.
Yeah, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take basically right along the leading edge of where we're starting to see the rotation, okay? And then we're gonna go out, and hang with me here. So we're gonna go about 40 miles per hour. So within the next 5 minutes there, and we're getting some updates. Let's take us out a little bit farther. We'll take it out about a half an hour. And so if it holds course, puts it so roughly in about half an hour in Columbus, okay? Close to Seymour in a half an hour, and Elizabethtown in about 40 minutes. So if you're just tuning in, we have tornado warnings. We may get an extension of either the tornado warning or severe thunderstorm warning. But couple of areas, looks like there's a little bit near Lake Monroe, and then this is one here that's catching the attention. It's north of 50, and that likely is going to take it, if it holds together, that's going to take it over I-65 in Bartholomew County here.
Yeah, and we'll go back to
new warning, new severe thunderstorm warning just issued, and it does include Bartholomew County, Brown, Jackson, Jennings, Monroe. This goes until 8 p.m. Radar indicating near 70 mile per hour wind potential with this. It should pop up here momentarily, and that will go until 8 p.m.
Okay, so that was kind of the area that we were expecting to, as we track this storm out to the east, now not very far away from the Columbus area.
Yeah. So, and that actually includes Johnson County. So basically that arc, so right along the arc here is, and it's getting caught up, if you were watching our shows earlier this evening, it was getting caught up. The wind field we've been telling you all evening would ramp up with these storms. So now it's kind of getting caught up in that. So this includes Greenwood, includes Franklin, and includes Columbus until 8 p.m. Severe thunderstorm warning with the potential, little elevated potential of wind over 70 plus miles per hour. So I'm going to put the radar into motion. You can see how things are arcing out. And honestly, you may not have a whole lot of thunder with what's coming in Johnson County, but don't let that fool you here, because as we look at the wind fields, they are strengthening a bit, and I'll show you the shear rate. So these little pockets of green that you're seeing on the map, those are areas where the wind could get, just above ground level. You get about 5,000 feet above ground level. Our winds are running 70 to probably 75 miles an hour. So some of that's going to get transferred down to the ground. That's why Whiteland, Franklin, Nineveh, in the severe thunderstorm warning till 8, and includes Seymour and Columbus and all of Brown County as well.
All right, maybe we can go back and we'll do a couple of tracks on this big, now rather large severe thunderstorm warning that includes several of our communities from near Martinsville to just east of Bloomington, Franklin, Greenwood, Nineveh, Columbus, south to Seymour, and Brownstown. As Sean pointed out, the potential exists for some winds up over 70 miles per hour. So we'll do a couple of tracks. I'm going to do this kind of in pieces just so you can see maybe one of your communities come up just so you're weather aware. And we'll do the leading edge of some of the heavier rain and the potential for some gusty winds, as Sean points out, as they kind of arc out or bow out. That indicates some strengthening and the mixing down of some of those stronger winds. Did they say still 35 miles per hour, or are they moving a little faster?
Yeah, about 45.
Okay,
Roughly
so we'll
45.
go out 45 miles per hour or so, just so you can get an idea of where this storm is going to go next. Basically over Lake Lemon now. It will move into Nashville and northern half of Brown County, and then eventually into Morgantown. So Nashville about 10 minutes or so, closer to 15 Morgantown for the potential for some of those damaging winds. And then as we move to the south, we'll do a track on where it's already kind of bowing out just now east of Lake Monroe, and give you some times of arrival just so you can prepare a little bit ahead of time. So we'll take this kind of midsection here and track it out 45 miles per hour. And it'll be into Columbus in about 17 minutes. So Columbus, we've been kind of alerting you as we got on the air as the storm moved over a fairly rural part of Lawrence and Jackson counties. That Columbus was kind of our next big city that it would impact, and now it's about 15 minutes away. So we encourage you in Bartholomew County to go ahead and not necessarily basement weather at this point. You're not under a tornado warning, but away from windows and doors. Not a good idea to be outside at this point. So if you can stay inside in the interior part of your home, the lowest level, just in case those perhaps 70 mile per hour winds materialize, then you're in the safest part of your home and away from any flying debris. This is the kind of wind that can bring down tree limbs, some smaller trees, a power line. We could lose some power. So if you haven't lost power already, might be a good idea to charge your cell phone so you've got that that step ahead. But just be aware, Columbus, you're about 15 minutes away from some of those gusty winds and the return of some heavier rain. I'll do the southern part of this one as well, the line itself, just kind of keep track of where this storm is going to go next. We'll clear that one, and basically we'll do the section that is approaching Brownstown. And as it goes northeast at about 45 miles per hour, Brownstown in about 3, 4, 5 minutes, Seymour in about 13, and then Jonesville. So it's kind of that area that we were mentioning. We would be wanted to alert you that if that storm held together, that's where it was going to go next. And that severe thunderstorm warning, as Sean pointed out, goes until 8 o'clock this evening and does include a good part of our viewing area. And this is a storm that we've been tracking, as Sean pointed out during our earlier newscasts, for the last several days, and it just seems like we are in a pattern of big spring storm systems that have everything from severe weather to snow, and this is the latest one. Did bring severe storms earlier in the week to the plains, brought severe storms to Texas. I had 2 handfuls of tornadoes from Texas to Iowa yesterday, and now it's kind of our turn. I'm going to give you a regional perspective too, just so you can see the scope of this storm system. It really extends from the Dakotas, where they're digging out of several feet of snow, to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where we've got rain, to the threat for severe weather across the southern part of our area, and then all the way south to almost the Gulf Coast. The tornado watch has come as far north as a couple of counties in southern Indiana. We were just on the edge of really getting destabilized as far as the atmosphere goes. We were lucky we had clouds and rain most of the day. That really decreased the threat for a widespread severe weather event. And now, most likely, it looks like we're going to get a handful of warnings this evening between now and, as Sean pointed out, between 9:30 and 10 o'clock, and the most likely across the southern half of the state. So if you are south and or east of Indianapolis, that's going to be kind of our focus over the next couple of hours for the potential for damaging winds. And as we saw with that storm as it moved into Bedford, at least the potential that a couple of these storms could rotate. The tornado warning set to expire at 7:30. It was good news that they actually went severe thunderstorm instead of a tornado, so must not be getting any significant reports out of the Bedford area, but that is something that our newsroom will follow up on with the National Weather Service and spotters that might have been in the area. But they did go ahead and issue a severe thunderstorm warning for several of our communities, from Greenwood to Martinsville, just east of Bloomington, Columbus, Hope, North Vernon, Seymour, Brownstown, and this severe thunderstorm warning will go until 8 o'clock this evening. So we are tracking this storm moving northeast at about 45. The good news, Sean, at this point, they didn't go tornado warning on this. They went severe thunderstorm, and you know, as we check the velocities, and easiest way to explain it to you is red and green close together, and it's kind of a broad circulation there north of Brownstown. Another one that looked like it was trying to develop, as you pointed out, east of Lake Monroe, but nothing really tightening up significantly at this point.
Yeah, so far. Yeah, and I did a track on the leading edge of the strongest wind over the next 50 minutes and took it to the northeast at about 45 miles per hour. So that gets it into Morgantown within 7 minutes. It's almost on top of Seymour now. Bargersville less than a half an hour, and these times are updating now. Columbus within 15 minutes. Trafalgar, same thing. Let me take off the track, and I want to. This is basically wind velocity. Where you see those brighter colors that are about to get into Seymour is indicative of a little bit higher wind. And then you can see the red and green close to each other, but not necessarily really tight, what we call tight. But that's what prompted the tornado warning. Let me take the radar back about a half an hour just so you can see how this evolved. And you can see it almost from start to finish. It was rotating coming into Bedford, tightened up a bit. They issued the warning. And you can see as we play through time that there is rotation. It's just not, thankfully, it's just not really tight. Now, with that said, that does not mean we can't get some severe gust out of this. This bright blue here, nearing Seymour, could potentially produce 70-mile-per-hour gust. So, and I would just kind of get away, especially if you're in an area that's near a lot of trees. I would just get in your safe location until this thing can pass by here. Working up the line. Let me put this is what the radar looks like here. So this will be the main. We talked about the main line. This will be it. Okay. So as we work into the metro area, behind this, things probably going to be relatively quieting down here between now and the next 90 minutes. But we're going to have to get through this first. So getting some pops of thunder now. What could concern us a little bit is along and within this line as it arcs out, there could be these little pockets, and we talked about this evening. These little pockets of rotation embedded within this are certainly a possibility, and we look for those. And as we kind of clean up the radar just to show you, okay, these areas of green suggest, hey, this is where the stronger wind shear or where we could get some of this impacting the ground level, or near Brownstown now, near Seymour. And then as we get up, a little pocket there within the line, getting closer to Nashville, little pockets of green there near Martinsville. That's going to enter the severe thunderstorm warning. That encompasses a pretty good chunk of Johnson County too. So heads up there, Trafalgar and Bargersville. I'd say probably within the next 15 minutes, the wind is going to probably ramp up a bit. And this is, so we look for these little, yeah, and you can see actually, we look for those little red and greens, Angela, next to each other. You can see almost a little twist as it moved over Bloomington. The bigger, you know, where we had the tornado warning is still where we're seeing some rotation, but becoming a little more almost outflow dominant there as it gets into Seymour. So we'll see if that indeed creates some damage. Hopefully not, but if you're in Seymour, I probably would kind of get in your safe locations until this thing can get to the east of you.
Good point. And I would say anywhere from Greenwood, Franklin, Columbus, Seymour, if you can stay away from windows and doors and let this storm pass you by, that's probably the best advice. Don't necessarily need to, go to your basement and hunker down for the next 2 hours, but just be aware this is going to impact you, as Sean said, the next half hour, 60, 90 minutes as we track this line of storms from near Martinsville now to approaching Seymour. And one other piece of analysis that we have with live Doppler 13 radar, and I'm going to turn that on right now, and it kind of gives us an idea of where we have these little pockets of hail potential or damaging wind potential. So what you want to look for here are the purple. The purple sections are going to indicate larger hail potential, and then when we get red and yellow, that indicates the potential for more damaging wind gusts, and we can kind of point out where we may be getting a little bit of hail. Indicating here, again, radar indicated, not necessarily coming down, and I don't have my phone on me, so I haven't checked Twitter to see if we're getting any reports, but this purple color indicating that potential of up to half-inch hail or so, with some of the cells that are moving through Martinsville to just north of Bloomington. And this is the area of concern that Sean just pointed out. Even if it isn't rotating as it kind of bows out or curves out toward those of you in Seymour, likelihood that those winds that are pretty strong and just above the surface are going to work their way down to the surface in a pretty fast motion. So we encourage you, Seymour, that part of the line of storms has the highest potential for some damaging winds, and it's moving right in your path, Seymour. So we encourage you to take that one seriously.
I'm sorry, the warning.
That's okay.
The tornado warning was allowed to expire.
Okay,
so,
perfect.
Yeah.
So that is some good news. And as Sean mentioned, this may be turning more into a straight line wind event versus a rotating wind event, but we still have plenty of shear in the atmosphere. And what that is winds changing direction as you go up in the atmosphere, changing in intensity as you go up in the atmosphere, and you have to have shear in place to get storms to rotate. And that's why it was such a concern today for the potential for rotating storms, simply because we had that wind field in place. What did us a favor, the clouds and the rain most of the day, where we cleared, and we talked about this during our early news between 5 and 6:30, really helped out that we were cloudy and rainy, but the southern part of the state where they broke into sunshine, and that's now where we're starting to see the intensity peak with some of these storms. We're going to get you to Jeopardy in just a second, but I do want to show you one more time the complex of storms that has triggered the warning. Severe thunderstorm, not tornado, so we're going to take a break at this point, but Martinsville approaching Columbus, and again, concerned with this area in between Columbus and Seymour, and we'll just do kind of a track on the leading edge of this as it goes out 45 miles per hour or so. Seymour in about 3 minutes, Columbus in 5, Elizabethtown in 11. If anything does change, we will break back in. In fact, I've got another live update that won't interrupt your programming in about 10, 13 minutes or so. So we'll see you then, unless we would happen to get another tornado warning, and we'll keep you posted.